All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. I'm Stephen Burnett with Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi. And with me as always is Catherine Mansell, certified Q grader and director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, Louisiana. Catherine, how are you today?
Things are going well down here in New Orleans. How about Jackson?
No, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. I was telling you earlier that I came in and there was not very many people in the office today, and apparently we've had whatever 2025's version of COVID is tear through here. So we're all kind of battening down the hatches and staying away from each other, eyeing one another suspiciously, and that kind of thing, as we do. But each week we set aside about 10 minutes to field questions from home coffee roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and most importantly, enjoying coffee. You can send your questions to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com to get a nice shout out from us in an upcoming episode, and of course to get your question answered. This week's question is from Hank, who is a listener and a customer of Current Crop. Woohoo!
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
says, hey y'all, that's how you should always address us. Hey y'all.
Always. Yeah.
My question my question is, how much difference does the flavor profile change from fluid bed versus drum roasting on a large scale? I see very successful roasting businesses using either of the two methods. I'm currently running my small business using a bullet that I purchased from CCRS, another shout out, but
Yeah.
kind of torn if I should upgrade to a fluid bed in the future. Thank y'all for everything. Hank Savin, paramedic in Bayou Ruga Coffee. Bayou Ruga, that's pretty cool. I'm
Yeah.
saying that right, Ruga, right?
I think so.
I think so. We're gonna call that. Hank, if we're wrong, let us know.
Yeah.
Bayou Ruga
Yeah.
Coffee. Check them out. Okay, Catherine. Well, before you dive into an answer, you got a really, really solid answer. I want to just say that, there's not going to be a right way to go in all of this. I think there are definitely pros and cons. I am partial to fluid bed, but that's where I started. I'm kind of comfortable with it. I
Yeah.
think people move to drum. It's a lot more known in the commercial side.
Yeah.
It's been the standard way of roasting coffee for so long. There's a lot more data on drum roasting, so I think there's a bit of safety in that. But if you've got a pioneering spirit, fluid bed, man, it's solid. So that's my layman's answer. Catherine, what do you think? Fluid bed, drum? What should he do?
Um, so I found an article written by a guy from Mill City Roasters back in 2023. And of course, Mill City creates drum roasters. So they have a little bit of bias in it, but I think I agree with mostly everything that he says because the drum roasters provide much more precise temperature control. Drum roasters remain popular because they do have some real advantages. Roast control is a function of stability, and drum roasters are inherently more stable. They can be equipped with much more sophisticated and effective sensors. They can also scale enormously better than fluid bed roasters. And he says, as a matter of fact, where coffee quality is important, no fluid bed roaster of greater than about 6 kilograms per batch can achieve the roast quality of even the humblest of competently operated drum roasters. And also, drum roasters handle a range of batch sizes. And very generally, fluid bed roasters are typically configured for one batch size only. I love fluid bed roasters. I have a really great roast with our fresh roast. The hybrid with the Gene Cafe, we get a really good roast on. But for me, I go with the drum roaster. Obviously, I love the Aleo. I talk about it all the time. And even when I nail a solid roast on an air roaster and when I nail a solid roast on a drum roaster, for me, the drum roast always tastes better. There are so many different things that I can do profile wise that I can't normally do on a fluid bed roaster. So there's quite a bit more control. There's more consistency. And really, when you are scaling up or when you're running a business, being consistent with your roasts and what your roast tastes like is really the biggest thing. So for me, drum roasters all day.
There you go. Drum roasters all day. Now, I'm sure no one
Yeah.
hearing this is going to be mad at us at all and have any opinions about it. I want to
Just in the
say, I
matter
mean,
of scale, just in the
yeah,
matter
yeah, we
of
need
scaling up, turning into a larger business, and really
right,
taking your at-home roasting to scale.
right,
I think a drum roaster is the way to go. Now, I love fluid bed roasters. I love air roasters. When I'm roasting my own coffee to take home,
right,
that I'm running an 800 because I know it. I
right.
know what I want. I know which beans work with it. But when I'm roasting at scale, when I am roasting larger capacities, things that need to be incredibly consistent day in and day out, I go with the Alio.
Hmm. Yeah. Now we've got. I want to say this. We've got. There's two things that I think are considerations in all of this. A lot of people, and I'm thinking specifically of like you've got the Sona Fresco roasters, you've got the Valenta
Yeah.
roasters. We carry those now,
Mm-hmm.
and some major benefits to air roasters are the fact that you can fit them in a lot of places that a comparably sized and comparable capacity drum roaster would be much more cumbersome and difficult to fit. Like
Gotcha.
the you know what I mean? Like if you've got a shop, if you've got a limited space, air roasters in by and large are much more friendly on the footprint in terms
Yeah.
of that as well. And
True.
they're typically faster. I mean, the Valentas have
Yeah.
I think they can do like 8 to 10 roasts an hour, and they've got
Wow.
an 18-pound roaster. You can do 18 pounds, 8 to 10 times an hour. So you can put out some
Wow.
coffee,
Yeah.
and that one, that's the biggest one they've got. That one's like
Yeah.
18,000, almost $19,000. So
Yeah.
dollar for dollar, you'd be hard pressed to find a comparable output drum roaster at that price
Yeah.
point. So all these
That's
things
true.
are there's going to be a trade off. You're going to have trade
Yeah.
offs, and that's just true of absolutely anything, especially with coffee roasting. But I think what you say about consistency is very, very important. If you make a great roast every three roasts, uh, you're not ready to be in business, right? Like,
Right.
you need to be able to consistently create the coffee that people are really gonna love, and more than just they like it, they need to know that when they go back and buy that same bean next time, it's gonna taste the same. So
Right.
consistency
Yeah.
is going to be huge there too. I think what's the the hybrid roaster? It's huge. It's just slipped my brain. Not Diedrich. It's like the big. I don't. I'm gonna put it in the show notes when as soon as we hang up and I
Yeah.
remember what it is, I'll put it in the show notes. But it's a drum and a huge commercial drum and a hot air roaster, a convection roaster. So it's not fluid bed;
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
convection roaster that blows hot air through a drum and
Yeah.
recirculates and all of that. The benefit to something like that is you kind of get a best of both worlds. You get the conduction and you get the convection heating,
Yeah.
which again, it's an air roaster, so I want to say that's not fluid bed. Fluid bed is the question, but that is
Right.
something that's a big deal. And with that, importantly, the one I've seen is a gas-fired convection. So you're
Mm.
heating air with a flame. It looks like a jet engine. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you're gaining the consistency of control that a gas roaster provides you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using an electric roaster, really of any kind, if you don't take extra steps to make sure that your voltage is regulated, then you're going to have a very hard time consistently creating repeatable roasts, right?
Yeah.
So people that buy like a Valenta can and oftentimes do they'll handle their voltage regulation. They'll run all the power through a voltage regulator so that
Yeah.
they always know they're getting the same output. So when they crank the setting here, it's always producing the same amount of energy for the roast. And so
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to this question. And I
Yeah.
want to bring it back down from the nitty gritty and well, I guess bring it up from the nitty gritty and zoom out to 30,000 feet. I
Yeah.
always like when I'm talking to somebody like Hank who's considering upgrading, for capacity reasons primarily. I always want to like say, what's going to be the easiest thing for you to
Yeah.
get up to speed on? And if you start on a fluid bed roaster and you can crank out a beautiful roast and that's what you're comfortable with, it will be a learning curve to go into a drum roaster. And maybe that learning curve is worth it. But I usually ask people, okay, if your business explodes and you wind up, you have to upgrade twice more to huge machines you never thought, like the kind that the size of a bus. Okay,
right?
Do you want that machine to be a drum roaster, or do you want that machine to be fluid bed? What do you envision?
And what are you more comfortable with?
Absolutely, because if you have to relearn and train, like retrain your brain, so much of roasting, you and I know this, especially dialing something in, is instinct because you've trained it so much, you've done it so much, and so if you're like, I like fluid bed roasting, I could do this, just get a bigger one, bigger one, then stick with it. Stick with a fluid bed roaster. But if you're running a bullet like Hank is, and you dialed yourself in, your senses, your instincts to how a fluid bed responds to heat, the life cycle of a roast in that, man, stick with a drum roaster. Absolutely. Get a bigger one, because you're already going to come into that. Yeah, you're going to have a learning curve with how that machine works, but it's going to be less of one because you're just going to be translating. So that's something else to consider. It's like if we were artists and you were a watercolor painter, maybe photography is great. Maybe you can be great at it, but maybe stick with capturing images in the way that you're already doing it and just perfect that. That's kind of my little tidbit there. Catherine, anything else to say?
No, I'm trying to see if we left something out this time.
We always do, but wait a minute. I actually had something on the point of consistency. At least the Valentas. The Valentas have a module you can add to the roaster called the Hermetheus, which I think is an awesome name. And you can program a roast curve into it, and it'll change the heat. Now you still got to control loft manually, but it'll keep the heat where it needs to be based on your previous roast. So you can automate that. And if you've got voltage regulation, that you're in a temperature controlled space, your barometric pressure is the same, and all those considerations we have to think about roasting, then you should be able to get a very, very consistent roast with a little add on there. So that's the only thing. But besides that,
I need to see one of those in action.
I know. Well, they had them at Houston. They weren't firing them up on the floor. I kind of wish they were. I was like, just break the rules. Come on. I'm sure we've ticked everybody off. We've ticked everybody off. Everyone's mad at us now. We're just gonna have to like wait out the firestorm on social media and just come reemerge in a few days. But please share your opinions on this. You probably have them. Share them. Don't keep them to yourself. You can hurt yourself bottling up these emotions. Put them in the comments. Put them on social media. It would be great. It would be great. It would be great if somebody were to take our episode, YouTube, share it to their social media, and then rant right beneath it. Put it in coffee groups. Tell people we don't know what we're talking about. Do all that, because every bit of that is going to help this channel continue to grow and take over the world, to introduce more people to coffee roasting, coffee tasting, coffee enjoying, which is what we're here for. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. And if you did, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you found us on. We're excited to watch the Roast It Yourself podcast continue to grow, reach more people, and we can't do that without you. And we also could not do that without the folks that handle our audio and video and graphic work for the podcast. They make us look and sound good. Thank you for all that you do. You guys know who you are to make this thing a reality. Remember, listener, send any questions you have about coffee in general or coffee roasting in particular to questions@riypod.com. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
Thanks, Hank.